Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the StarCraft 2 World Championship Series Winter Americas Edition. I'm Nathanius, joined by Zombie Grub, as we move into the winner's match of our Americas group, and should be a good one. I think this looks like it's going to be a great TVZ, Zombie Grub.
Yeah, it might be the closest match of the day. Not that MaSa versus Estrella was in the 2-1, but there was some maybe
shenaniganery about.
Yeah, exactly. But this, these guys have played together, in the North American leagues and whatnot, very long time. Pretty sure they're friends, and they're also, I would say, of equal skill levels often, depending on like if JonSnow's playing a lot or if MaSa's teams or not. So it should be good.
All right, I'm going to tell these guys that we are ready to rock and roll. But yeah, I'm really excited for this. I'm wondering how much cheddar MaSa is going to bring to the table. He did try a couple of cheeky proxies in his series against Estrella earlier today. Of course, as this is a winner's match, the player who wins this best of 3 will advance out of the group into the next stage of WCS Winter. The loser will get another shot. They will fall down to play in that decider match as we boot up game number 1. A new repugnancy.
A weird word.
You don't like repugnancy?
Just not use it very often, is it?
No, it's not.
Yeah. So I learned so many things from map names.
Like Einvidir, that's another good one.
What is that?
That was the Avex map.
I must not have looked at it for very long. What is it called again?
Einvidir.
Einvidir.
I-N-V-A-D-E-R.
Yeah, I don't remember that one. But all right. We are loaded in the game in the top right, not sending any racks building SCVs on the map. It is the blue Terran MaSa.
And he faces off against the red Zerg player in the southwest position, representing Psystorm Gaming. He is JonSnow. MaSa better be warming up, though. He's qualified, I know, for as one of the Canadian representatives for WESG. He had that great series with Scarlet. If you guys missed it, it was pretty fun. They got to the point where I think we had like a mass battlecruiser game as well. I think MaSa was telling me that was the first time he had built them since the patch. He was like, you know what? Someone told me BCs are pretty good, and I have a hard time playing versus Scarlet. So
yeah, it's
going to be a no from me, dog. And you know what? In Control's channeling his kindred spirit into my brain, and he's telling me that MaSa is actually 40-10 in maps and 14-2 in series against JonSnow. And I don't think In Control would telepathically tell me that information unless he had a very good reason to. And I think he's actually looked into the future and seen MaSa already win this match, which he would spoil to me because that's the type of person that Jeff is.
Well, that's pretty one-sided in MaSa's favor, but it is over, I'm gonna say, a pretty long time. And there's that period, that whole discussion of like, is MaSa playing, is JonSnow playing? Both of them do seem to get benefit from taking the pressure off themselves, from being like, yeah, I'm not playing very much, yeah, I don't expect very much. So it's weird when that happens. But we'll see what the result is here, as whoever loses does get that second chance. So then there is even more of a, I don't know if I'm going to win this one, but I could probably win against Estrella again.
Yeah, I think both of these players should be confident against Estrella in a final match. That's not to say that Estrella hasn't been playing well, though. As Fear Dragon would have us believe, he's definitely got what it takes. He showed some promise earlier.
MaSa.
But you'd rather win the winner's match. Get it over with.
That is certainly true.
Finish up, go home, eat a pizza. Well, these guys are playing from home, so order a pizza. I don't know.
Just sit there and go, alt tab over to a different...
I won my group, Mom. Dinner's on me.
I imagine they win a group and they may do like a small fist pump or something. Like Johnson's a little more, like emotional. That's the word. That's the wrong word.
But break dancing. And
yes. No, but my point was that they do that and then they just like stay in the computer and
I keep a giant pallet of cardboard across the floor of my office room in case I ever win an epic game and need to break dance. So I totally understand.
That makes sense. I can confirm. I was, you're all over at your house.
We had the big game party at my place.
Exactly. I was thinking that MaSa might do something off his 1-1-1, such as an armory or maybe a fusion core. But
it's a rough build. It's going to be a rough build, lots of Hellbats and straight to Medivacs. Ooh,
so, I do think Euthermal's been shown. I think he showed this on a ladder game. I don't know if it was a tournament game. But he did like this very, very amazing, very funny. I want to say, well, it was Mass Hellbat, I can say that. rather confidently. But then, what do you call 4 to 6 Vikings? Is that mass? Is that a lot? Is that what is that exactly?
I mean, the point of doing this build is like I think it's more in the power that the medevacs provide. But
You're just living in the past, Nate.
I don't know.
It's all about the Vikings
My
now.
mind's boggled. No, he's got to switch to the medevacs after this.
No, he's going for more Vikings. Man, I think no. Hold on. Yep, that's a Viking.
This is so weird because this looks exactly like the last game I played versus Ruff. This is what Ruff does.
Really?
He opens with like 6 Vikings, tons of Hellions, then builds medevacs behind it and just lets like mass Hellbats with like drops. And for TVT it makes sense because Vikings wreck Terran buildings and mech units. But I'm having a hard time thinking like, do you think a couple Banshees would do better than some landed Vikings?
I am with you. The reason that it worked when I saw it was that the Vikings, it was already a surprise Hellbat attack anyways, you know? So I was like, is that more the reason that it worked than the Vikings? But the Vikings do have a certain amount of tankiness, I guess, that it's just another layer of things to get through.
Like Vikings have 6 range, right? So I guess
you land
could use them to focus fire. Yeah, when you land them, they have 6 range.
Yeah.
So you could use them to focus fire down the Banelings. Vikings do like 14 or so damage, I think. No upgrades versus ground. Maybe it's 12. It's got nerfed like 5 times in the beta, so I don't. All I know is it does 20 damage versus mechanical, which is why it's good against mechanical.
Obviously, with the Vikings, first and foremost, they're going to clear out the Overlords and potentially supply a block. Not that Zerg players really have more than one, some only one, some 2, on the map, but they're going to look for like that little pocket of Overlords sometimes that Zergs have.
You want to find the piggy bank.
Yeah, they're not going to find it, so we're going to see them eventually pair up with the Hellbats, and that is the attack that's on the way. So Banelings, you know, ideally they hit the Hellbats. Even then, you know, if the Hellbats could do a good job of splitting, it still doesn't work out 100%.
We've got landed Viking harass inside the main base, picking off a couple of these units, and
No, don't use those. I mean,
bruh.
well, I think
Don't you want the Banelings to like split the Vikings and then let the Banelings hit them? I don't know.
As the Terran, yes. So I was saying
Yeah.
no for JonSnow. Like, you want to save the
Surprised that lifted
Banelings.
the Vikings. I thought he might be able to bait out some Bane hits. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he wants to be able to land them with the Hellbats as well, so he doesn't want to lose them quite yet.
Oh, but the Banelings get right in the middle of the Hellbats. That's not good.
He still has 5 Vikings.
Oh my God, what is happening?
I don't know, but the Lings have to respond to this, and then they just lift, unlike Hellbats, which I mean, they usually just kill the Lings, but you could argue take damage from them too.
The sacred text. I have no idea what's going on.
I'd have to like watch many versions of this to really 100% be like, this is the whole goal, but it's clearly the Viking micro is working well enough. He's gotten multiple queens from the Hellions and the Viking harassment. He got 11 drones, and he took out not actually that many Lings, I don't think, but like this is just.
I think he could have won the game potentially if he had like 4 medevacs healing all of the Hellbats.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah.
I don't know, or like Liberators behind it. I'm extremely skeptical of this build.
Yeah,
I guess the idea is that it's just so out there, you don't see it coming. But I think as a Zerg, you end up just being relieved. You're like, oh yeah, wow, he doesn't have anything to kill the Hellbats. That's nice.
Yeah, I guess so.
Queens can kill them.
And again, I think a lot of the times that it does work out is that a Hellbat push also would have worked. You know, like the Banelings were late, the Roaches weren't there type thing. So, yeah, I'm not 100% on board the Vikings. And before all like the Pro Terrans, like, no, it's the sickest thing. So
maybe someone will point out to me that this is actually the greatest build that's ever been done. At which point, I will go through all the replays I have against Ruff and realize that he's been 10 steps ahead of everybody, and they don't even know what game they've been playing.
Yes, and then eventually they'll steal his Reaper Rush with Proxy Planetary Fortress build.
Yeah,
that's a good one he does as well. So
yeah, he did patent the Rush and TVT with like the 4 Ghost drop, which was weirdly hard to deal with back when Cyclones weren't all that.
He's going to do a Hellbat drop in combination with Liberator harassment. JonSnow probably maybe scratching his head a little bit at the attack. Has just been running smoothly into a 4th base, 73 drones. He is still on Baneling Hydra, but we see him going into a missile upgrade. Might be expecting some mech follow-up. I actually wouldn't know what to expect from MaSa, considering he's been a little out of play, and it's more so asking around at what's good. But I guess if he's asking around at what's good, then people would say Cyclones.
Yeah, people are going to tell him mech is good. Liberator gets in the main base. Not bad. Able to grab it through the drones. The Vikings land here again. Oh my God.
They're so microable. Get smart servos.
Yeah, get servos. Do it. Commit to it. Show me you mean it, bruh.
How many drones total have died here? 18. I mean, for what he's lost, though, it's like, I guess it's still in favor of MaSa.
Yeah,
Okay,
their
well.
worker count's very similar between both of them. What he's really done is prevented some of the larvae, I guess, from being used on units rather than workers. So there's not a crazy army around for JonSnow, and that means that MaSa should have a little bit more time to bolster himself up.
Does he really need to get more Vikings right now?
This is so weird.
Like, I like that he has... I like that he has 6 Vikings, but not this quickly. Like, he'll be useful for
the
dealing with
Vikings are going to become useful, yeah, when the Vipers come out, just like you were saying. So it's not like they're bad to have now. I still don't even think that you need to be building them yet. Like, you should get another armory instead of Vikings, or Magfield Accelerator for all those Cyclones you're building.
I'm with you.
Or Liberator Range.
He is finally getting Liberators, but he is missing the Cyclone upgrade. He's also...
he just has 1 armory getting attack upgrade.
Right. Attack upgrades.
All you need is +1 attack, by the way, for Blue Flame Hellions to always 2-shot Lings. So I feel like armor gets a lot more value for all of your units as well.
Right.
If you're playing Cyclone Mech.
Yeah, and if you don't know, the Cyclone lock-on, which is the real powerhouse, especially against like roaches, for instance, not that we have
Not affected by upgrades, yeah.
Yes, not affected by upgrades spell, so that's why we usually see, in conjunction with Cyclone Mech, right into an armor.
You usually see armor upgrades, so it's very weird. I will say I think that with actual attack upgrades, the Cyclone's non-locked on attack. 2 shots Lings at some point as well.
Huh?
So there is some merit to it, because I think the Cyclone by default does 18 damage. So without any attack upgrades, Cyclones wouldn't be that great. He tries to kill a Spire with his landed Vikings. It's going to be a no from me, dog. Maybe if they were the Wings of Liberty Vikings that used to deal real damage to non-mechanical units.
Yeah, maybe.
But then I remember that one of those games was like Shattered Temple. The guy just like built 12 Vikings, flew them across because it was close air, landed them, and the dude just like insta died. Because I think the Vikings with like upgrades, 2-shot Lings, it was like, yep, it was terrible.
Well, those weren't how the Vikings usually deal with Spire units. They died instead, so he doesn't have a lot to deal with any Vipers, but we were only at 3, which is actually quite a conservative amount against this style of play. But this style of play also is, for MaSa, a lot more about the Hellions, as there's not even that many Cyclones on the front line. Back attack as well on creep, too. Kind of a best-case scenario for JonSnow, but he already took quite a bit of damage. And even as he chases after this, that's when the Cyclones really get effective anyways, that they can lock on and run away.
Yep. Did not get the hatchery, by the way. That's one of those scenarios where if he had had Magfield Accelerator earlier...
Oh, yeah.
And the reason why I say you got to start it earlier is because they made it take longer, you know? Magfield used to be like 71 seconds, I think, to research, and now it's up to 100 or something ridiculous like that. It takes forever to get that upgrade, and for the utility it provides, he would have killed that hatchery and then some if he had had that upgrade earlier.
Well, JonSnow might have had a suspicious first battle with the maxed out or close to maxed out Cyclone Hellion attack. I think he now has his feet under him. He's making sure to continue that creep spread, and he should be adding on some Vipers, and he is definitely going into that Greater Spire. But MaSa doing a great job behind all of this, expanding. JonSnow's not getting any counters or run-bys, and also adding on a couple of starports.
Yep. But I think JonSnow is handling this really well. The best way to deal with these Liberator strategies is Hydra Viper and just pulling all of these units right into the Hydras, because if you were doing this against like a big mech army, those units actually have hit points and they can tank a few hits when they're being pulled in, and then you can kind of engage while the Vipers pull everything in. But because the Cyclones pretty much unanimously die in like 1 or half a volley of Hydras, since their health is so low, I feel like it's really hard to play against those Vipers.
Yeah.
Just yoink 5 of them in and they all die instantly.
In my experience watching these mech games, it's once the Zerg player gets a comfortable state, like they have a decent amount of creep spread, which is the case.
The Cyclones no longer do it.
Yeah, it just starts to really fall off, and even when they transition into Liberators or even start adding on a couple of tanks, Vipers are still absolutely key. Unless you got a decent number of Vikings and you're sniping them, which MaSa had, and then use them.
Yeah, this is what you do right there. Boom, there you go. Pull everything in, run the Vipers back. You don't want to lose the Vipers. But you got to keep in mind that the Cyclones are 150 minerals and 100 gas. So if they need to kill 2 Hydralisks, basically, to be cost effective.
Yeah.
Per Cyclone, which is not what's happening there.
I'm also, worried that besides JonSnow getting the composition to be the perfect one, really, that MaSa also is just not able to find any damage. He can't really, he's not splitting JonSnow apart.
He only made one good push
everywhere.
He didn't get the base.
Yeah, he's not even getting a lot of Hellbats, Hellion run-bys, for instance, to do something. So As a direct fight goes, it might go okay, maybe.
Yeah,
but
JonSnow's doing a really good job of getting his upgrades too. His +3 melee is about to finish, which is going to really help. Of course, the range upgrade is good since he has so many Hydralisks. Look at this. He's got a Zergling underneath the command center, blocking the Terran player from further expanding. And with this many Hydras, we really need to see... Yeah, Liberator range is the only way you're going to be able to try to lock down bases like that. This is nice. Fighting back a bit.
Yeah. It is. I mean, this is when you're supposed to not just have one Liberator dealing this. You have a Hellion attack there, and then you're clearing a creep spread here.
Your Cyclones all lock onto the hatch.
Yeah, exactly.
Pop it up.
Yeah. Without that, JonSnow should still feel comfortable taking, better resource loss trades against the main army, and then eventually he will be able to push through and actually deal severe counter damage. But anytime off of creep, it does get a little suspicious, especially since he still has Banelings he's relying on, not just a pure Hydra Viper army. Which I actually would, I don't want him to go for Banelings anymore, personally. He is starting to add in Infestors now. Fungal, obviously very good, keeping the Cyclones in place.
Fungal growth nails the...
Yep, that's a good addition, as well as getting into Broodlords eventually. They, there's the, if I go too many Broodlords, then they do start to outpace me and outposition me because they're slow. But once you have a direct fight, then they should win with the Fungals included and Blinding Clouds.
I'd like to see MaSa try and split some units around the banana hallway on the north side to attack that base and complement that with spreading everything out. But instead he's going to go for this big fight. All right, let's see what he can get done here.
MaSa goes on creep, so he's
Those liberation zones are really good, by the way. That's the best part of this fight. He's cleared out an insane amount of the Hydras. He does lose a lot of his mech army, but the majority of the Hydras get smacked a bit there. I feel like if he had immediately re-sieged the Liberators during the fight, while they were being pulled, he could have gotten a lot done.
I agree. JonSnow is replacing the army. There's one thing that's not going 100% here for the Zerg player, and that's actually some decent Liberator range again. And that's that the bank never really grew. So he's been investing in so many things, but also taking trades that at an okay worker count, not an amazing one, that the bank isn't comfortable. And MaSa is starting to get some serious economic damage done with these Liberator harassments, just 3 different bases at once, I think.
Ranged Liberators are amazing on all these maps. I've said it a million times. We finally get to see it. There's every single one of these bases on this map. There's a spot where you can put a Liberator that it can cut off a mineral patch outside the range of a Queen.
So MaSa continuing to expand. Extra orbitals could also start coming down. He really has not been pressured on his side of the map, and he can start to develop a composition that deals maybe better with these Broodlords that he's now scouted. I mean, it is one of those things where Cyclones get underneath them. They are rather good, but that's the whole trick, is getting them close enough without dying and everything else.
And you got to be careful about the Banelings. And what I think you need to do as MaSa, as these Baneling count gets lower and lower, since the gas is trying to go towards the Broodlords and the Infestors, get transformation servos so that your Hellions can dodge the Banes, and then as soon as the Banes are gone, you slap that transform button and turn them all into Hellbats.
Yes.
This Liberator spot is really good, though.
JonSnow is really starting to take a lot of damage from that, and also probably getting a lot of his attention splits, so MaSa is starting to clear up some creep spread. And, if JonSnow takes a direct fight, those Vipers will be the highlight, sure, but JonSnow is really starting to get worn down, bit by bit.
He doesn't have a bank anymore, so it's really all going to come down to this. I really like this position, actually. This is a terrible spot for JonSnow to move into because he's got all these liberation zones to cover him. Yeah, there you go. Easy pick off there.
Yeah, I think JonSnow realizing maybe a little too late that he needs more Vipers. He has 4 more on the way.
Oh, he's going to walk everything into the... Now, just siege the Liberators immediately again is what you do. You spread them all over this one more time. He's going to micro the Cyclones, which is also fine. If he deals with all the units on the ground, the Liberators can actually kill the Broodlords. Yeah, he's got this. By the way, Cyclone Lock-On not affected by Blinding Cloud since it is an ability and not a weapon.
You saw how fast those Broodlords go down once the rest of the army went down. JonSnow now below 120 supply, never had that bunch of a bank.
Them ranged Liberators. G to the GG, baby.
Yeah. But there's, when I see the same engagements happen with different players, if the Zerg player has 7 Vipers, I think that's a solid number. Then the Liberators almost seem to never add anything, and the trades continue to go well for the Zerg. But what they did definitely do that I don't usually see is get really good harassment. No argument there that
I think that was a crucial component of this game. That top left base was locked out of mining for ever as soon as range was finished, and the bottom base. That's the type of harass that I like to see. That particular style is very strong. You have to send Corruptors there in order to get rid of them, or bring the Viper all the way over, abduct, have ground units available, and even then you're not always guaranteed to kill the Liberator. Great transition by MaSa because the Cyclone Hellion was not cutting it on its own.
Mm.
It was really that advanced ballistics upgrade to give the Liberators the extra range that broke this game open and allowed them to kind of squeeze back into it because things weren't going so great when it was just Cyclone Hellion starting to trade versus the Hydra Viper.
Yeah. And for someone who, like, this is a rather new style, really, for the pros. It's been, like, introduced in the last couple of months, like, little couple. MaSa, not playing that much. He has this, like, ability to be like, that's good. Okay. And then he does it. I assume he studies a build order or two.
There's a weird amount of pressure in being, like, a little, like, so nonchalant about it. Where
sure.
He's like, yeah, I don't really have the pressure because I'm not playing that well anyway. I'm not really, like, playing too much right now.
Then he does the style, and you're like, well, Thermal does it all the time, and he struggles, and MaSa's like, I got the idea.
He's
like,
just 200 IQing himself is actually the play.
Yeah,
he convinces himself that the build he's doing is so bad. He's like, I can't possibly win. Why you get stressed? And then he just wins, and everyone's like...
That's how it goes.
That's how it goes.
Well, JonSnow had an idea of how to handle it, and I bring this, I'm going to continue talking about it because I am deathly afraid MaSa will do it again.
Do you think he's going to do Mass Viking Hellion again?
Okay, I don't know about that.
Okay.
But the Cyclone Mech again. And that JonSnow, as I said, he has a handle on it. He knows the idea of dealing with it, but maybe he doesn't face it to the degree that MaSa can throw at him on his regular ladder practice. And maybe, once he's got more familiar with it and, he started to have those ideas that more Vipers equals gooder, then maybe we can see a different outcome.
More Vipers equals gooder?
That's a general rule in StarCraft, man.
Okay.
Just, if you didn't know that. Hatcheries.
Yeah, today I have been learned.
Yeah, like Zerg players always have to have one more hatchery than their opponent or whatever, and then more Vipers equals gooder. So.
I'll take it.
Yeah. Skins Cove for game number 2. The top left as the blue Terran. He is MaSa.
MaSa. And his opponent in the southeast, our Red Zerg player, he is JonSnow. Very interested to see if MaSa does something as absurd as the Mass Viking Hellion build again. What if he had just sieged like 2 or 3 or 4 Liberators while all those Hellions attacked instead of landing Vikings? The Vikings did kill drones, but I feel like anything else could have also killed drones at less cost.
But you see, Liberators aren't as microable as Vikings. That's just...
Are they though?
They're not.
Liberators have 60 more hit points. They're pretty good.
They transform slightly slower.
I guess it's 50 more hit points now, right? So, but still.
I don't... I feel like the Vikings did an oddly good amount just because they were a surprise. Yet, as I said, I've seen this before.
If you can get the Overlords, if you get like a weird thing where they have the Overlords in their base, then I'm all for it. Like, I can totally see how that build tries to catch Zerg off guard because you don't normally worry about your Overlords as a target early on. So, I'm making jokes about it because I find it weird and confusing, and I don't think it's that great. But I do understand that. I think it's fair to point out that there is an opportunity where you could get like 4 or 5 Overlords, hamstring the Zerg's ability to produce, and then those Hellions / Hellbats kill everything because the Zerg is just supply blocked.
Yeah, and another point is that the Queens would be the natural response to Vikings over your base, killing all your Overlords, so they're not in the front line defending.
Yep.
Usually the first line of defense against Hellbats. Like, there's a lot of things that can work out for that. But is it something that you do more than once in a game? Is it a solid opener to transition into a 3rd and 4th and whatnot?
I'd like to see MaSa do, like, and you can do it on this map too, rush ranged Liberators. So good. It's so good. There's a spot in the main. There's 2 spots in the main. There's at least 1 spot in the natural. You can cut off so much if you want to be cheeky with your early harass.
It's too bad. I feel like JonSnow really has some decent TVZ for a straight-up game. And with MaSa maybe, mechanically a little bit lower than usual because he hasn't been playing as much.
What's this 3rd base?
Oh, this actually is not the first time I've seen the Zerg take this. I thought it was weird when I saw it another time too, so I don't know. You tell me.
Sorry, you can finish your thought. I was just very confused for a moment there.
I don't remember what that was.
Okay,
you were out of my head, man.
Talking about JonSnow's TVZ and
oh yeah, if it was regular just bio. Yeah, or regular mech, I suppose. But MaSa always is a trickster type, throwing in some different compositions, different ways of playing.
If you're not comfortable playing at like 300 APM, I think mech is actually just better in every way, honestly. Versus Zerg, Like, mech can do everything you need it to do, and it has tools to deal with everything. Playing
Wait.
bio is like if you want your hands to be on fire.
Wait, is he gonna go like double?
Yeah, he's going double Banshee.
Okay, double Banshee. Okay, it should be double
I'm going to
Banshee.
assume double Banshee.
Yeah, it should be.
He would have already had to start the fusion core if he was going to do the double BC rush. He'd also need the gas in his natural.
I was gonna say that the gas seemed to be a problem.
Trust me, if there's one build I know intimately, it is the double BC rush.
The double. Seems like something you would get fast food places.
Exactly, because you get 2 heckin' chonkers with that build. Hellions are going to run by into the natural expansion. We got 4 drones. Can I see 5? 5 drones. Pick it off inside of the mineral line. Go for 6. Can I get 6? We have 6 and no 7. Decent little bit of harass there. That was just 2 Hellions in the Reaper, right? For 6 drones?
Yes.
That's a good deal. I'll take that. I will take that.
Oh, that's actually very good. JonSnow, by the way, this third base, I think, you know, a little shock and all of it in the first place is you can at least give one fact, and that's the creep spread off this base will be faster.
And I guess this base is probably really hard to take later on.
I think
because of that creep thing that you mentioned.
Whenever we see these forward bases on any other maps, that is our usual talk point.
Yeah.
So it's just that it is a little bit weirdly more forward.
But it is weirdly closer to your natural and main than the actual third.
Yeah.
The high ground one that's safer that everyone always takes.
Yes. Yeah. So okay.
I think this actually looks pretty good versus Zerg. I don't know I would do it versus Protoss because of like Blink and Prisms going into between your main, but I like this actually.
Yeah, I think it might become the standard in this matchup. So JonSnow does not know about anything really in the main base here, so the double Banshee build is going to surprise him. No speed.
I would really like to see him get Hyperflight Rotors.
Yeah.
I want it. Do it. He's going to do it. There's no way he does this build and doesn't get Banshee speed.
That's what I was going to say. Like, you just are supposed to do it.
Yeah. Yep, there we go. He's not going to skip Stim.
Little.
This upgrade got buffed, right? It still takes like an insane amount of time to research. I think it's still like 121 seconds, but apparently it used to be 141, which, if I recall, is the longest upgrade in the game other than Stim. I think Stim is still 140 seconds or something ridiculous like that.
That is the number I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
I never really did a lot of the Banshee stuff when it was first introduced. But
well, to be fair, this upgrade was terrible because it took longer to research than it did for your opponent to scout it, build the counter, and kill you. And it still wouldn't be done researching, by the way.
Once they figured out that this was a thing, Zerg players were able to adapt and scout very quickly. And then whenever there is a new thing, you see a lot of Zerg players also go for like faster alert speed.
Preemptively cloak? Wow. Okay. So he knew he was going to fly over creep and didn't want the Zerg to have any notice. So he's valuing the element of surprise over the detection capability, having the energy last longer, which I guess makes a lot of sense since the queens are always going to retreat to the spore. So he says to himself, if I can pick off 1 or 2 of the queens, it's easier to grab this hatch. Oh my goodness, almost finished off that one.
So JonSnow went for a later layer than, what is really considered safe, I suppose. And he probably just considered MaSa was going to do something similar. Well, maybe not similar to last game, but the point is something more macro-oriented, something he could deal with. And instead, the lack of Overseer is going to be painful. He's going to have to move Spore Crawlers around. The Banshees are just hanging around here, so detection isn't so much an issue.
It takes 4 Banshees, 2 volleys to kill a queen. So that's the magic number that he had. I think one of them has fallen down, but getting this hatchery, I think, is a really big grab. He'll be able to pull back, send the weak Banshees home. They're going to have speed, and they'll be able to return faster, or just bring them all home, repair them. I like that a lot. The transition to mech out of here is really good. This particular composition is really nice because it kind of serves the same role as, say, the Liberators in the last game. The Banshees are going to allow you to, A, defend a lot more easily against move-outs from units like Roaches and Ravagers, naturally, but also being able to do that multi-prong harass on the other bases. I still expect to see range Liberators at some point because they have that ability to avoid the spores and the queens better than the other units. But I like this opener a lot. Killing that hatchery was really nice. And we're about to see round 2 after the Banshees get repaired, and he moves out with what? He's got 6 and 2 more about to pop.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm more interested in the second attack. I think if there's too big of a lull, like there's things that have been missed from a usual TVZ that usually get taken down. The queen's going to die, but there's already creep tumors, and Banshees don't really worry about that until later on when they're more of a harassment unit, and that there was still a high drone count to work off of once you had your hatcheries back up. So there is still room to work with JonSnow if he was allowed to actually work with it, but instead the Banshees come back up here. Double Spore Crawl at this base, but at 6 Banshees, he is like...
Banshee DPS is insane, man.
He's going to tear down this hatchery if he so chooses, if he wants to sacrifice maybe 1 or 2, but there he goes for the queens again. They had like 2 transfuses each, and that was it.
You can one-shot the Hydras here.
Oh, yeah.
That's really nice.
For sure. 4 Hydras trying to come out here. 7 more on the way, but the hatchery is once again going to fall. 3rd, Spore Crawler. Maybe that's going to send them packing. Over the Hydras, though, so they take them out on their way. Actually, the weak Banshees are taken down.
Lost, you know, it was actually a bit of a misclick there. You got to really match the beat when it comes to Banshee attacks, because what basically just happened there was the Banshees were just the slightest little bit off pace with those attacks, and one of the Hydralisks needed a second volley to clear like 2 health. And that's when the count started to go down.
Yeah, now he's actually just overcommitting. There's a trifecta of Spore Crawlers.
Yeah.
That's usually a protection around the
Takes
hatchery.
3 Banshees to one-shot a Creep Tumor with no upgrades. So I think you just take your Banshees, clear the map, and bring them home and repair them. Or do another big attack with a couple of Banshees that have 10 health.
Oh, Hellion. Oh my god, it's all Banshee Hellion. That's all it is. Like, you better keep them in Hellion for the... Actually, there's not even enough Banelings even if you had them in Hellbat. There's some more on the way.
I think there are enough for if you turn them into Hellbats, but...
The Hydras would also be able just to kite them down.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
the Hellions got to stay as Hellions. Just run by, basically. That was scary for a second, but JonSnow did have enough, even though his supply isn't looking so hot. He does, as I was saying, you know, he's at Creep 30, he has 4 bases back up with 67 drones still,
Yeah,
and he has Hive.
At least the tumors. Yeah, he's done a good job keeping the creep alive. That's a huge part of this. Hellions come back, and they're going to knock some of it away. It's a good play there. And there's still Banshees. I mean, as long as you send them home and repair them, you're good. It seems like JonSnow doesn't want to build mutas, which means, you know, the Banshees are going to be able to provide almost infinite value as long as he sends them home when they get hurt.
Yeah, there's so many other things they can pick off.
Really wants that hatch. Tank a Spore Shot or 2. Tank a Spore Shot or 2. You're so close.
Certainly could have. There we go. Transfuses trying to come down.
Oof. Okay, he gets it. That's very important. You don't want to lose a Banshee there without grabbing that hatchery. Delaying the base, that's always nice. Drone has to get back into position. Hatchery is now underway once again. But the nice part about cranking out Hellions behind this is you actually end up with, it really balances your economy to build all your tech while you crank out a lot of Hellions so that you can afford to get all your infrastructure, all your upgrades. He's got one of his SUVs not mining at one of his refineries on his 3rd base, which is triggering me a little bit. But the Hive is done. Adrenal Glands is ready. Best play JonSnow made in this game that you mentioned earlier was just he has Banelings with speed very quickly, despite the fact that this is like, you know, he's playing versus mech. Because otherwise, I think those Hellions earlier with the 6 Banshees could have closed it out with a couple good shots on those Hydralisks.
Yeah, really like that he's going for a decent number of Vipers. We have Burrow even being added on, which is just, it's like, you know, if this was 5 bases, all bank, you know, whatever, then sure, but Burrow. But this is a conscious choice to put 100 into that, as well as a Spire, and he has kept up on his upgrades rather well, whereas MaSa, I mean, not the worst upgrades, about to finish 2-1 on the armor, but it's actually going to be behind JonSnow if he gives him any more time. That's so many Hellbats, but here come the rest of those tanks.
Yep, the siege tanks are going to be this is a very, very tight needle to thread, I think, because those Vipers, a couple of Blinding Clouds, really just shut down all the tanks. The tank line is pretty well staggered, though. There we have the Hellbats up front. The tanks are pretty much almost all shut down, but the buffer does last long enough that they can start to fire, but will they be able to clean up this army? I think with the Banshee support, the answer is yes.
Ooh. You know, if there are more Banelings.
The repair mules, of course. They're always for repair guys.
Yeah, of course. If the Banelings had been on the front line to take out those Hellbats a little bit faster, then maybe the Blinding Clouds would have been enough with the Hydras. But, man, they lasted a long time. And now JonSnow has really no fighting units. 12 more on the way. He did save his Vipers, something to tear him down. But their support units don't actually kill anything.
Nope. Until we give them the High Templar / co-op treatment and give them an attack. They actually do a lot of damage in co-op, though.
They have like little spitballs. It's weird.
Yeah. Yep.
That would have been a very effective double Blinding Cloud if there was units to take advantage of it.
Yep. GG. MaSa 2-0. He's out of here in a good way.
Yes, exactly. He's out of here like a home run out of here.
Yeah.
There you go. As he advances out of his group, and despite all the rumors of, like, you know, how well is he going to play, or his mechanics, you know, a little lackluster because of his lack of ladder time, they basically been answered. He still dominates NA, except unless Scarlet or Neeb comes along, which is later.
America's, not just NA, but America's, yeah.
Well, I guess I always figure like him versus JonSnow, right?
Yeah.
It can be one of the typical NA tournament matchups.
Yes.
So.
JonSnow versus MaSa is one that's happened many times before. Yeah. So, with that, we move on to to our decider match. Here's Group F so far for WCS Winter Americas. MaSa just defeated JonSnow. JonSnow will fall down to fight against Estrella in the final match of the day. Don't miss it. We'll be right back. You're watching the StarCraft 2 World Championship Series.